Dragon Ball is a fantastic series. You probably agree with me if you're watching this video, but what makes it so great? Well, there are many reasons. You could point to the excellent comedy, the high stakes and tension, the relatively simple but emotionally rich characters, but an element that some people will try to deny, but is undeniably extremely important, is the consistent power scaling. Throughout the entirety of the original story, there's such a satisfying consistency to how strong anyone is at any given time. That consistency allows for someone to completely immerse themselves in the story as a believable world that plays by consistent rules. Unfortunately, outside of the story of the original manga, that consistency tends to fall to the wayside. Whether it's due to pure laziness or the previously established lore not fitting with the writer's desired narrative. Regardless of the reason, that immersion that came so easy in the original story is often lost in later material. I feel like far too often do people not truly appreciate the value of consistency. How can there be tension at any point if any character can seemingly get a massive power boost with no explanation? Just because the writer wanted them to be stronger. That deep immersion in the original story gives you is hard to maintain when every 5 minutes you think, well, that contradicts previous events. I should be able to watch a show and believe that the world of the story could actually be real, but instead, I often feel like I'm watching an improv play that has no greater thought put into it. But that's enough babbling. I should actually start giving some examples of what I'm talking about. First things first, while I stand by the fact that the original series is extremely consistent, it's not perfect, so I'll start by going over the relatively few mistakes there. Starting out, we see Master Roshi tell Goku and Krillin to train until they can push a giant boulder. They then ask Roshi if he can do it, and he says he can, but then it's implied that he actually can't. But then later on, post-training, Goku and Krillin can push it, and Roshi should be relative to that Goku, so by all logic, he should be able to push the boulder. Ultimately, this is essentially a non-issue. We don't actually see Roshi try, and this is back when gag comedy was the series' top priority. After that, there isn't really another issue till way later, in the Namek arc, where we get into the very contentious Zenkai boost, that being a Saiyan's ability to get a power boost after recovering from a near-death experience. Many will claim they're wildly inconsistent, and they are, but actually, Vegeta explains that the boost is proportional to the opponent, which means this isn't really an inconsistency. However, that doesn't mean we're in the clear, cause after Vegeta's initial fight with the Ginyu Force, Vegeta fights one-on-one against Jace, and despite dominating, Jace seems to still be keeping up somewhat. Then later on, without any additional power boost, Vegeta is comparable to first form Frieza, who should be somewhere around 10 times stronger than Jace. In this moment, Vegeta seemingly got around 10 times stronger out of nowhere. You could say Vegeta was that strong the entire time and just wanted to play with Jace, or Vegeta was just exhausted and didn't have access to his full power till after taking his nap. Despite potential excuses, this is an example of a relatively large unexplained power boost in the series. The other minor issue with Zenkai is how Vegeta says you can't knowingly inflict Zenkai on yourself, despite the fact that we see Cell and Goku both do exactly that. But it's worth mentioning, in both cases, Cell and Goku didn't realize they were inflicting a self-Zenkai, so it could be just a mental thing. Now, all of my previous examples can be somewhat explained away, so it's not a big deal, but there is one example in the original manga that's just an inexcusable inconsistency. That being how after Piccolo's revival on Namek, Nail is incredibly impressed by Piccolo's power. This makes no sense. All Piccolo has done since the Saiyan saga is travel down Snake Way, only being on King Kai's planet for a few days. For comparison, Piccolo had a power level below 2,000 in the previous arc, while Nail has a power level of 42,000. But despite that, Nail acts like Piccolo is really impressive, while such a large jump in power just isn't justified by anything in the story. So I would consider this an undeniable plot hole in the original manga. But you know, one major issue in a 519 chapter long story is insanely good. I think you would be hard pressed to find a road this long without a few cracks. Oh, and I should mention how Mr. Satan just tanks an attack from Kid Buu, but that was clearly just being presented as a gag, so I don't really count it. Oh wait, I thought of another one. After Cell survives his kamikaze moment, he says he can regenerate as long as the core in his head stays intact, which would be cool if Cell didn't regenerate his entire upper half a few chapters earlier. If you ever need an example of Toriyama being forgetful, this is it. And now that all of that is covered, we finally need to get into our main issue of this video, starting with Dragon Ball GT. While I'm somewhat of a well-known GT glazer, that's only because it gets more hate than it deserves proportionately to its debatably worse peers. It certainly has problems as well though. I think its strongest argument over its rivals is actually how much more consistent it is in terms of power scaling, and by extension, immersion. While GT does have a lot of moments where you might say, Why doesn't Goku just go Super Saiyan 3 and win? That's technically not a plot hole, as holding back is on brand for Goku. In the spirit of talking about GT's problems, I want to make a promise. If I ever hit 1 million subscribers, I'll do a cover of the amazing GT dub opening, Step into the Grand Tour. 1 million is a lot. They'll probably forget I said this by the time we get there, right? GT actually has some weird problems with transformations. They've seemingly all forgot what a Super Saiyan 2 is, and never use it despite it being an objectively stronger form. Then, Gohan has returned to using Super Saiyan, even though in the Buu saga, he was seemingly magically granted access to his full potential in his base form. During the Grand Tour, we also see these space worms that can tank Goku's Kamehameha, which is actually insane, since this implies these random worms could blow up planets and solo Frieza. Then the writers seemingly forget Planet Tuffle is actually the same as Planet Vegeta, meaning it has 10 times gravity, so none of these Earthlings should be able to survive here. In terms of the actual plot though, I kind of take issue with how often the crew pours their energy into Goku to restore his power. They do this a few times, and it just doesn't make sense. Based on events in the story, we can say Goku is literally hundreds of times stronger than everyone else in base, so them giving Goku their power should barely make a difference. Then, in the Shadow Dragon saga, we run into an issue where Super Saiyan 4 Goku was previously able to keep up with Omega Shenron, but despite that, after becoming Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, he's somehow not able to one-shot Omega. Considering how strong Fusion was back during Z, and Goku was already strong enough to fight Omega by himself, Gogeta should absolutely be able to casually one-shot him with ease. Then, in the scene where Omega Shenron is bodying the squad, not only does Mr. Satan survive the attack, but basically everyone here should have been turned to mush from a single attack from Omega. Unless you think he's sparing them so they can die with the planet, but that's a bit of a stretch. Anyways, that puts GT at 6 power-related plot holes to Z's 2. And since Daima is sort of a spiritual remake to GT, we'll do that one next. I would describe Daima as death by 1,000 cuts. It's absolutely full of weird little things. But let's just go through and you'll see what I mean. Starting out, the wish on the Dragon Balls to make our gang kids shouldn't have worked. It's established multiple times that the balls can't affect people stronger than their creator. You might say I didn't fault GT for this, but GT kinda got around this by creating a separate set of Dragon Balls that follow separate rules, while also having a much more powerful creator. There's no excuse in Daima though. They try to establish this weird idea of white and black magic, but no, you can't just lazily retcon it here and act like it's not contradicting previous lore. After that, Goku ventures into the Demon Realm. This is where we run into Daima's second issue, that being how, unlike GT, that very smartly established Goku's instant transmission doesn't work in his child body. Daima goes out of its way to confirm Goku can still do it, so the entire plot falls apart. Since instead of wasting several days traveling, Goku should be able to just teleport anywhere in the Demon Realm instantly, with the show never presenting a reason this couldn't be done. Goku could teleport to a separate dimension in the afterlife, as well as someone he's never met before on the other side of the universe in Dragon Ball Z. Distance and even dimensional barriers should not be an issue. Next problem is how Daima Goku is incredibly slow. No matter how you interpret events, characters even during early Dragon Ball moved so fast that normal people couldn't even see them with the naked eye. They then go on to get millions of times faster. My issue here is every time their plane breaks down in Daima, my initial reaction is, Goku should just lift the plane from the inside and land it himself. There's no reason a plane with Goku inside it should crash like this. He had several seconds to react, which is an eternity for a Dragon Ball character. In the second Demon Realm, they run into the Kraken, and later on the Megath Child and his dog. These are giant creatures that are established to be much stronger than Super Saiyan Daima Goku. Now, while the Daima characters are weakened due to the Child Wish, I think most people will agree with me that they're at least as strong as their Namek Saga selves. Namek Goku could literally blow up a planet hundreds of times over, casually. But you expect me to believe these giant monsters are too much for them? It's just too much of a stretch for my suspension of disbelief. You're telling me that every single one of these giant dudes can blow up the planet they stand on? There's no way a normal society could function like that. Things then somehow get worse, as our gang is struggling against an army of generic fodder. Listen, I hate these stun guns that seemingly do massive damage to Goku and Vegeta. I'm literally thinking of making an entire video going on just how badly these guns completely break the logic of the series, but just for now, let's just accept they can hurt Goku. Even with that, like I said earlier, Goku should be unbelievably fast. None of these shots should ever hit him. Goku should be able to knock out this entire army in less than a second in base form. It's ridiculous how bad this scene is. I'll say once again, I don't understand how people can see this and not treat it as the massive issue that it is. Now, despite all the previous issues, I was enjoying Daima a lot. It wasn't really until here that my aversion was 100% broken, and I was truly ripped out of the show, just feeling a pit in my stomach, disappointed at how bad my new Dragon Ball show apparently was. It's impossible to take this seriously. It doesn't fit in with the previously established story at all, and somehow, we're not done. Once we get into the final battle with Gomer, our gang is restored to adults. Once they are, we learn that our gang was so massively nerfed by the Child Wish that even Super Saiyan 1 Vegeta performs better than Super Saiyan 4 Kid Goku. This means our guys got 50 to 100 times weaker from the Child Wish, which is ridiculous. In the manga, it's never implied that people's ki gets massively stronger as they grow into an adult, as Kid Goku or Krillin were never considered weak in early Dragon Ball solely because they're kids, and they don't get a massive power boost just for growing up. Kids being massively weaker than adults just has never been a thing in Dragon Ball, but even if we accept that premise, it's still wrong, because earlier in the show, they say the Tamagami who Goku defeated was stronger than Deborah, the same Deborah who was equal to Perfect Cell in the Buu Saga. Based on that statement, you would think Goku didn't get any weaker after becoming a child. But then, this ending completely contradicts that. And I'm gonna say it, the Tertian Eye is stupid. It just magically makes you hundreds of times stronger every 5 seconds infinitely. They never give it a satisfying origin story, so it's just the most overpowered thing in existence with no reason given. You can't base the entire climax of your story that's supposed to be taken seriously around a single item, then wave it off at the end as a gag and not elaborate. Comedy isn't a replacement for good story. So that means if we combine some of Daima's problems together, that means Daima has 6 power-related plot holes, which is equal to GT. But then you realize GT is over 3 times longer than Daima, meaning proportionally to its runtime, Daima was actually over 3 times more inconsistent than GT. Now of course, you all know why I save Super for last. Super is so chock full of inconsistencies that it makes GT look like an icon of consistency. Now, some people will say, well, the manga is better. Yeah, you're right, the manga is better. Let's only cover the manga version in this video, since it's better. The first thing it debatably does better is cut out the narrative from the movie and anime, where Goku absorbs the power of the god form into his base. While this actually makes the story of the arc much worse, since Goku gaining that power by himself without the help of others was important to the themes of the movie. But it would go on to make a ton of problems in the later arcs, so the manga removing it dodges a ton of those power-related inconsistencies. Once we get into the Destroyers tournament though, I'm not a big fan of Frost's poison needle strategy that lets him essentially one-shot Goku. I'm not saying Goku needs to be immune to poison, but I don't like that Frost was able to just stab Goku with a needle so easily. Goku is on guard and powered up. Weapons have always generally been ineffective in Dragon Ball, like with characters blocking Trunks' sword. If Frost's tactic here is possible, then everyone in Dragon Ball should be fighting with weapons all the time. Now generally, this one isn't too bad in the grand scheme of things, but our next one is much worse. We need to discuss the mess that is transformations in Super. It's important to preface that even in the manga version, Goku and Beerus nearly destroy the entire universe. Power scaling in Dragon Ball has always been contentious, but generally, Cell was solar system level, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku in the Buu Saga is like 5 to 10 times stronger than that. So Goku going from a bit above solar system level to universal in the god form is a massive boost, to the tune of like several billion times stronger. However, despite this impressive destructive feat, the form is never treated like such a massive boost in power in the manga. Goku fights Hit while in his Super Saiyan form before going into the god form, and based off of the universal boost, Goku should one-shot Hit here, but the manga treats it like it's only a decent boost above Super Saiyan. Then, later on in the Goku Black arc, we see Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta losing to a regular Super Saiyan Goku Black after a power boost. Then, after that, Goku and Vegeta are still able to somewhat compete with Goku Black's Rosé form. All of this is to say, the god forms are never treated like the colossal boost the universal feat implies, which just boils down to Toyotaro not realizing how big of a jump it is for Goku to go from solar system level to universal. Now, while this is undeniably an inconsistency, if we just don't think about how ridiculous destroying the universe is, and just take that scene as Toyotaro saying, Goku is really strong, then it's actually not such a big deal. But you do need to accept that the god forms aren't an insanely large boost, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. Getting into our next topic, in the Goku Black arc, we see that Goku Black can low diff Super Saiyan 2 Trunks in his base form. This is important because later on, that same Super Saiyan 2 Trunks is equal to Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And no, Trunks didn't unlock a separate form. I've heard some people say that, but Vegeta literally says he didn't transform on the same page. Anyway, that means Trunks is 4 times stronger than Goku in base. I think we can all agree that Goku and Vegeta are equal at this point, but despite that, Vegeta is seemingly equal to Goku Black in power. This is of course a contradiction, because Goku Black is significantly stronger than Trunks, but Trunks is significantly stronger than Goku, but Goku is apparently equal to Goku Black? Make it make sense. Oh, that's right, you can't. A bit after that, Vegeta trains himself in the time chamber for an entire year before his run back with Goku Black. From that training, he gets a massive boost, surpassing Black. But despite that, Goku is still treated as equal to Vegeta in the next arc, with no reason given. Toyotaro seemingly just forgot that Vegeta should be stronger. After Goku Black, Goku fights some street-level goons, and a bullet is able to draw blood. I shouldn't need to explain this, but Kid Goku got shot point blank in the face by a bullet, and it didn't even leave a scratch, so this makes no sense. Into the tournament proper, the manga version of this tournament is nearly unrecognizable from the anime version. Our first point of contention is how base Frieza is seemingly comparable to Super Saiyan Caulifla, who should be around or stronger than Kava, who is equal to Vegeta in base. That base Vegeta should be stronger than the base Frieza Caulifla is fighting here, so by all logic, Caulifla should be fighting in her base form here. It makes no sense Frieza can keep up with her Super Saiyan form. That transitions us to Kale, who is consistently much more impressive than her anime counterpart, seemingly on Goku Blue's level. I point that out because she goes on to get overwhelmed by the Pride Trooper B team, that was previously being overpowered by Super Saiyan Goku, which is a massive power gap. Vegeta tries to explain it by saying her attacks are all brute strength and can be seen through easily. Absolutely not. I don't care how much more skilled you are, if your opponent is at least over 30 times stronger than you, you're not seeing through anything. The idea that they can dodge any of her attacks is ridiculous. They then go on to form Kefla, and Gohan is the one to fight her. Now, I can buy Gohan being stronger than Kale, due to the god forms being nerfed and the manga establishing many times that Gohan has been training again since his brutal defeat in Resurrection of F. But Potara fusions are insanely strong in Dragon Ball. Vegeta is seemingly stronger than Merge Zamasu in base, so the idea that Gohan is not only above blue level, but an entire Potara multiplier above blue level is kind of silly. However, everything else in this video pales in comparison to the absolute garbage that comes next. While fighting Kasserole, it's established that in the manga, Master Roshi hasn't gotten any stronger. That would put him somewhere around the thousands in terms of power level due to the events of Resurrection of F, a power level of 1,000 literally being nothing. Even the most conservative of estimates would put Buu Saga Super Saiyan Goku millions of times above Roshi. But despite all of that logic junk, Roshi is so skilled, so smooth, so sick with it, he's able to clash with Jiren for an extended period of time. Like with Kale, this is ludicrous. I don't care how skilled you are, an ant could have all the knowledge in the universe, but it's not going to save him if an elephant decides to step on him. How is he dodging this attack? Jiren should be able to pick him up and place him out of bounds before Roshi can even perceive what's happening. This single moment is worse than every issue in GT combined. But the Super manga is still better, right? Well, yes, it's still much better than the Super anime. The anime has so many more problems, like, so many. Anyways, the rest of the Tournament of Power is fine, bringing us into the Moro arc, which many consider to be the best arc in Super. And in terms of consistency, I tend to agree, but a few problems still slip through the cracks, starting with my least favorite topic, the incredible, amazing, invincible space guns. We see these goons able to keep up with Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta, but despite that, Jocko's gun is still able to one-shot them here. Like I said before, I could make an entire video on how these guns break the lore of the entire series, but I'll very briefly mention here that if such powerful guns existed, there's no way Frieza's family could stay in power for so long. Their entire empire is built upon the culture of power levels, and Frieza being seemingly invincible. But if these guns that can just one-shot anyone exist, someone would have sniped Frieza a long time ago. It's not like Frieza is shy about going out. People would have lots of opportunities to one-shot him. It completely ruins the martial arts fantasy. No longer is training in martial arts king, guns are once again at the top of the food chain, just like in the boring real world. Moro continues to be pretty consistent after that though, except for when the androids arrive to fight 7-3 while using Moro's power. They treat this like a big gotcha moment because he can't absorb the android's power, but it genuinely shouldn't matter. In the manga, 17 is considered around Super Saiyan 3 Goku level, so by all logic, 7-3 with Moro's power should just be able to low diff them here. But for some reason he can't. After that, there's one more moment that causes some problems, that being near the end of the arc, where Beerus implies he can take care of Moro for our guys. Now, for the most part, the manga has fixed the issue with Beerus the ever-moving goalpost. In the anime, it seems like Goku is going to surpass Beerus literally in every arc. Alternatively, the manga never makes such implications, at least until this moment, because back during the Tournament of Power, Jiren is described as stronger than Belmod, Belmod being portrayed as one of the strongest gods of destruction. Now, even though Beerus is still stronger than Belmod, it's pretty obvious that the other gods are somewhat relative to Beerus, being able to cause noticeable damage to him. During the tournament, Goku is able to clash evenly with Jiren in his Ultra Instinct form, and Moro is considerably stronger than even that. But despite all that, Beerus tightens his belt, pulls up his sleeves, and confidently declares that he'll take care of Moro for Goku. Why, Toyotaro? You were doing so good. Anyways, let's just get into the Granola arc, in which, while technically not a contradiction, I really don't like Granola's wish. The idea that sacrificing 150 years of life or power can just instantly let you reach Goku's level feels so cheap. Is that really all Goku's power is worth? I just don't like it. But outside of that, this arc is honestly pretty good. It genuinely does feel like Toyotaro has been gradually improving as he goes on. I do have other issues like the Bardock wish, and how Super Bardock is a weird plot hole in general, since we see the old special designs earlier in the manga, but now we're seemingly just swapping over to the minus version despite the old ones already making a previous appearance. But neither of those are power-related problems. Now, near the end of the manga, Toyotaro makes an extremely bold move. He has Vegeta say that they have been at their peak for a long time, and all the gains they've got over the last few arcs were the result of being more and more efficient in how they use their power over time. This is certainly an interesting idea, but it's full of problems. You can't just write the story the way you've been writing it, then in the final hour try to retcon everything. Like, it's totally always been this way, guys, I promise. Goku very explicitly gets more powerful from his emotions in the last arc, and the entire premise of Vegeta's alter ego is that he gets more powerful from taking damage. But if this is the road Toyotaro wants to go down, let's keep going with that in mind. Moro literally got stronger by absorbing more energy. It's silly to say he was just better utilizing the energy he had. Then, during the next arc, when Frieza kills Gas, he explains he wasn't considered for the wish to become the strongest because he was outside of the universe. Why would he say that if their power was actually equal? It's just dumb. Now, there's no manga version of the Broly movie, so we kinda just need to assume the movie is canon to the manga. It's laughable to apply this logic to Broly, who just constantly gets astronomical boosts. You think this man is taking extra care to conserve energy? You know, it's not the worst idea in the world to say everyone is at the peak of power and are now just figuring out ways to use their limited energy in more efficient ways. But you can't just retroactively apply it to the previous story when you clearly weren't writing that part of the story with it in mind. But going forward, if he ever gets to continue Super, I think it could be an interesting idea to explore further. Oh, and just for comparison, that puts the Super manga at a total of 14 power-related plot holes, compared to GT and Daima's 6 each. Now, cause Super is a manga, and much longer, it's hard to directly compare to the others, but I can say, in my subjective opinion, if I had to rank them, GT's inconsistencies are significantly less bad than the others, while Super is full of weird mistakes that probably could have been avoided if it had slightly more attention to detail. But Daima is especially bad. It's incredibly hard to feel immersed in the story of Daima at any point. Nearly every episode is plagued with, that shouldn't have happened, that doesn't make any sense, or why can't Goku just do this? It's definitely the worst. Now, before I end off, I just want to say, all of these series have good qualities too. I only care so much because I love Dragon Ball and want to see it continue to be great. Well, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.